Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. Done some introductions already, but thank you very much for all coming on and joining us. It's really good to kind of get different perspectives from across the market, club, network, intermediaries. So thank you very much. So I'm going to delve straight into our questions. Feel free to interject at any time. So firstly, I'm going to direct this question at the Craig. So Craig Hall and Craig McKinlay. I'll make sure I add a surname in there if it's just one of you. So the new build at the market is currently really strong. Record numbers coming in from brokers, targets being smashed across the industry. Do you see this continuing? And do you think the changes with Help to Buy is going to impact that? Craig Hall, I'll come to you first.
Thanks, Francis. Yeah, I suppose we've had lots of pent-up demand, haven't we, over the last few years? You know, we point back to Brexit. People have probably sat on their hands for a few years. The general election, end of last year. So all roads were pointing to a really strong year in 2020. Obviously, we went into lockdown, as we all know about, which only added to the pent-up demand. And then coming out of lockdown, you know, we saw a real positive reaction. And then it's been supercharged, I guess, with the stamp duty holiday. But this is combined at a time when, as we know, many lenders are struggling to get to the high LTVs. So in many regards at the moment, particularly for first-time buyers or those with a smaller deposit, all roads are pointing towards new build because of the buy and the fact that you only need to put in at least 5%. So, but then we've got this sort of bizarre situation, I guess, where, you know, as we know, Help to Buy is being tapered off from next year, from March next year, so only being made available to first-time buyers from April next year. So we've got a time where we know Help to Buy has been extremely successful over the last few years, you know, at a time where, you know, actually LTVs have dipped away. So it's a bizarre sort of crossroads, and I guess also pointing towards a bit of a double cliff edge with the stamp duty holiday due to end at the same time as Help to Buy, the current scheme. So I think for now, for this, over the next 6 to 9 months, extremely sustainable. I think the new build market's going to flourish. I think the big question is, you know, will builders be able to build enough homes and get them ready for completion? We know there's plenty of support from lenders with regards to Help to Buy. I think the big question is, as we go into next year, Q2 next year and beyond, how sustainable that demand is. So certainly for this year and into Q1, very strong. Big question marks about next year really at the moment for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Later on, we're actually hearing from Adrian McDermott at Barrett, so hopefully he shall shed some light on the demand and how much we're building. Craig, as a lender, from a lender's perspective, what's your view?
Well, I mean, you know, obviously I agree with Craig. So, I mean, there's three things driving the market. There is the lack of high LTV lending in the market. So if you're a borrower with a low deposit, new build and Help to Buy is very attractive because you've got 5% deposit. You know, most lenders are wanting 15% deposits at the moment, so most lenders have kind of gone to 85. There's a couple at 90, but it's quite hard to get. So that's kind of moving people towards new build. Then you've got the real push to try and do Help to Buy before the scheme changes. You know, it's your last chance as a home mover in the next few months. And then of course you've got the temporary stamp duty changes. You've got three things driving the market, and those three things I can't really see changing that dramatically up until maybe January, February next year. So I would imagine the market will stay really strong. But yeah, then the big question is what happens February, March, April when the stamp duty goes back to normal, when the Help to Buy scheme changes, there's no more home movers and the regional caps. You know, and potentially you would expect, hopefully lenders will go back to high LTV lending. So all the three things that are driving the market currently could run out of steam. So I guess that's a big question. And then, yeah, really real question for me really is, to go back to Craig's point, can builders build enough properties? I mean, we must get to a point where we run out of plots, because we know how long planning permission takes, how long it takes to build new properties. There must get to a point where, you know, you can only sell off plan for so long. And I don't know how far away we are from that. So I guess that's something we need to think about, because there's definitely a supply constraint, lots of demand. I think the demand will decrease because of those three things I talked about, but it's also, we've got to have the right amount of supply. So I think next year could be very different, which is why we need lots of innovation in the market, which hopefully some of the things we can tease out today.
Yeah,
I think the other thing to add in there as well is, obviously developers are reporting record weeks, months on prior years, in some cases a doubling of activity on previous year in some of the regions. But as we say, as we look forwards, builders are now that we've had confirmation that the current version of Help to Buy isn't going to be extended and it is going to drop into a first-time buyer product with those regional price caps. Developers are now starting to look ahead in terms of replanning and looking at what sort of units that they put on sites, etc. Probably more towards first-time buyer focused for obvious reasons. So that's already started to come into play as a result of the announcement we had from government not so long ago about the current Help to Buy scheme.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, thank you, Craig. And I guess the question to all of you then, you're all running and involved in different businesses. How are you dealing with the changes internally, and what do you think the future looks like for your business in terms of Help to Buy, etc.? Terry, I'll come to you first for that one.
Yeah, morning, Francis. I think first and foremost, we're working closely with our house builders and our customers to ensure that those that are reserving or have reserved on the current scheme can complete in time and get the current scheme. I think that's really important. As you've already mentioned, completion dates are moving. There's still some uncertainty with completion dates. It's always going to be a slow process getting construction back up to the levels that they were at. So I think that's the most important part at the moment, and certainly the priority at the moment is making sure that those customers can get in and make the most of the current scheme, and then we can then start to focus on the changes for the new scheme.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you, Terry. And Mobeen, how about you?
Thank you, Francis. Very much the same as Terry, like you pointed out, pipeline management is absolutely key and imperative just now. I mean, obviously we're delighted that the times have been extended from December to 28th of February, and that does allow us some time given pressure that lenders are under just now due to resource. So I think the key just now for all of us is working on our pipeline management, ensuring deadlines are met, and we can meet expectation of the house builder and our customer, which is totally imperative to ensure that we meet the expectations and deadlines and manage that pipeline. It will be interesting to see how things pan out given the Help to Buy change that you mentioned. Of course, majority of them are first-time buyers, and that's been suggested for the new scheme. However, the price cap, I think, will have a massive amount of a difference of what we'll see going forward, in particular North of England.
Yeah. And Craig, how is it at Legal in General?
Yeah, I think clearly we've got to do a lot of work with lenders. We need to get more lenders back up to offering higher LTVs. Now, whether that's working with them to try and manage limited tranches, at the moment we are seeing, and a number of the brokers are having challenges with last-minute product withdrawals, which is causing lots of work for brokers in terms of reworking the cases, rebroking the cases, and then there's also the knock-on effect to the customer and the developer in the new build environment. So, some issues there that we need to address around that. Post Help to Buy, we've held discussions with a number of private companies, so continue those conversations. How will that work? If you're a lender and you've got multiple private providers that you're working on different schemes with different T's and C's, and how does that work from a TCF perspective? And ultimately these sort of shared equity type products will sit on lenders' back books for many years potentially. So it's not a short-term thing. So some of this really needs to be thought through in terms of shared equity or some sort of MIG type product. So there's a few different options in the market. I think the other things that we're looking at are around the first home scheme. So some more detail has come out on that. What does that really mean? How will that play into the market? Is that going to be an additionality? Is it going to pick up a bit of slack from Help to Buy? Not so sure at the moment. And obviously getting lender support for that, because it's in essence a discounted market scheme product which has been pretty underserved, that particular product for years. So some work to be done on that. And I think, again, lender innovation. I think Craig touched on it earlier. Family assist, intergenerational mortgages. Some sort of genuine starter first-time buyer mortgage that maybe sort of steps up. And I guess the other thing as well is green mortgages. There's been a lot mentioned about this crisis, that many businesses, as part of the recovery, now is the time to go back to the drawing board and have some sort of green recovery. And how does that wash through from a mortgage market perspective around green mortgages? So lots on the pad, should we say, from an L&G Mortgage Club perspective.
Absolutely, thank you, Craig. And I guess flipping, so we're on the lender side, Craig. So what's your view from Kensington?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is get back to our pre-COVID product range. So pre-COVID, we were at 95% lending for non-new build, and for new build, we were at 90 LTV for both flats and houses. So we need to get back to that. We're not there at the moment. We're at 85 for new build as well. So we need to get back to 90, which I'm confident we'll do in the coming weeks and months, and substantially before the Help to Buy changes. So we need to do that. But then kind of longer term, I think, setting up sessions today, trying to find an industry solution. We talked about, obviously we've got the Halo presentation as part of today's session, to look at innovative shared ownership, which is something we're very keen to participate in. We don't currently do shared ownership. It's something we'd like to do. And also looking at innovative shared equity, potentially considering things like mortgage indemnity. So we're very keen that we find an innovative way to do this. So I think the first thing is we need to get our own proposition back to kind of where it is long term and get that 90 LTV for new build houses and flats. But then we're very keen to try and find a new innovative way to replace Help to Buy. Clearly Help to Buy will still be there for first time buyers, but in a limited way. But what do we do for home movers, and what do we do for people who are looking above the regional price caps? So I think that's the purpose of setting up today's session and getting such great participants.
Brilliant, thank you, Craig. And obviously biased, us being a lender hosting this panel debate, but a good time to ask, what is it from lenders that they need to offer new build brokers and customers from a servicing perspective? Mobeen, I'll come to you for that.
For sure. I think, like Craig had just mentioned, innovative ways that lenders can support buyers. I think customer choice is the utmost importance, whether it's an affordable housing scheme with high LTV product. Craig had mentioned innovative ways to offer customer choice, and I think that is important that we offer that to our customers, whether it's Help to Buy, post Help to Buy, or shared ownership, or guarantee scheme that you'd mentioned, Craig. I think that choice and supporting customers to buy on different schemes in addition to high loan to value products, we really need lenders to come to the party to that and be able to offer, have an offering of that level. I also think offer validity periods is really important, and of course we've been talking about this for many years, and of course new build market has massively changed since 2008. However, offer validity periods still remain pretty much the same with majority of lenders. Therefore, getting some sort of parity between new build and second hand, together with an offer that's valid for a longer period to match new homes completion. So for me, I think that would be very important. And also, in addition to that, having parity between second hand policy and new build policy. I mean, Craig mentioned loan to values on new build and second hand. I guess policies being on par for both types of properties would be, I think, something of interest for lenders to be able to offer something like that to customers. So those are the key things that I would feel are really important for lenders to consider.
Brilliant, thank you, Mobeen. And Terry, you're obviously very close to the customers, kind of in your Colchester office, in the call centre. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I think over the last couple of years, lenders, small, medium and large, have come on leaps and bounds with their new build propositions. And I think, a number of people on these calls, I know Craig and the club at L&G have worked really hard, the same as we have, to engage with lenders and bring new lenders into that market, and trying to encourage them to help to understand and actually even model their their proposition and their criteria. I agree with Craig M as well. We need to get back to pre-COVID levels with loan to values. I think we were making some good moves forward with green mortgages, as we've already touched on. You know, the Barclays green mortgage, I think, has been a huge success and is a really strong message. Whether or not the green mortgage is about rate or whether it's about some extra borrowing, which is a couple of lenders have looked at. You buy a property, a new build property with a certain energy efficiency, perhaps your affordability can go up slightly or something like that. So I think that's really important. But I think first and foremost, I think we all need to work together to get SLAs and turnaround times back to where we need them. Because at the end of this journey, like you pointed out, there is a customer, and the customer, it's an anxious time for them. You know, they don't want to wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we understand all the reasons why we're at these levels of turnaround times. Of course we do, but you know, he doesn't want to wait 3 weeks to be able to know whether or not he can buy that house, whether he can get a mortgage. You know, he wants to know. We're in a world where it's instant results. He wants to know pretty soon. So I don't think there's one magic silver bullet. I think it's a lot of the things that that have been discussed today will help to model that moving forward.
Yes, completely agree. And I guess it's been a tough time kind of throughout COVID. Innovation at Kensington is absolutely something that was at the forefront of everything we do. Had a bit of a break for some lenders throughout COVID, but hopefully kind of getting back to where we were before. We've talked products already, but I will direct the question again. What do you feel is most needed? So if you, from the products that you've spoken about, what do you think is lacking and most needed in the market at the moment? And Mobeen, I'll come to you again for that one.
I think competitively priced medium to long-term products, given situation just now, to give buyers a little bit more confidence, being able to budget their medium to long-term affordability. So I think pretty much what we've discussed already, but having medium to long-term products and having more availability of that, I think would be great for any new home purchaser. And I think I mentioned this earlier, and I don't want to harp on about it too much while Craig kills me, but having policies that aren't too dissimilar between new build and second-hand properties. So I think the products having similarity would be definitely helpful. And yeah, more products on affordable housing would be great as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And Craig H.
Yeah, I think the reason Help to Buy has been such a success is it addresses two issues. One is deposit, and the other is affordability. You know, some of the guys on the call will remember the first home scheme and new buy, and you know, there were lots of challenges with those schemes. Successes in their own right in a small way, but nothing like Help to Buy. And I think that's the thing for me, is how do we fill the void of Help to Buy that addresses those two needs of a customer, a deposit and affordability. So it does leave a significant gap in the market, and hopefully something that we've already touched on that the sort of private sector will come up with. You know, the Ministry and Homes England has suggested that there will be some sort of replacement, but obviously what will that look like? You know, if we think how far we've come, Terry's just mentioned it, in 7 years since Help to Buy was launched in 2013, when there were only a handful of lenders in those first few weeks and months, and I don't know, I think we're probably at something like 30 lenders plus now in Help to Buy. You know, and some of those lenders are relatively new to Help to Buy, and yet it's been around for a number of years. So yeah, I do wonder what will come next. As I've said already, first home scheme, I'm not necessarily convinced that will fill the void of Help to Buy, but it's an additional scheme, so it'll be interesting to see how that lands with lenders. And shared ownership, you know, again, you've touched on this, guys. It's been around for 40 years, but I still think that there's a huge opportunity for shared ownership. It is a genuinely affordable product. You know, again, we've seen a number of lenders come into that market over the last few years. I think we were pre-COVID around 24 or 25 lenders, I think, supporting shared ownership. But I actually think there's a bigger role to play, and all of us on this call, I think, have a role to play in promoting it and educating the end customer, because I still think there's a lot of myths around the product, and actually, if you went out into the street and asked a potential first-time buyer what shared ownership, they'd probably say, well, who am I going to share with, assuming it's some random stranger. So, you know, I think it's a great product. You know, I know the government did some work to promote shared ownership and the range of affordable schemes a few years ago, and again, I think this website's still live. I believe it is. So for your listeners, if they've not heard this before, I would encourage them to look at the website, which is Own Your Home. It's a government website which has got details. It's a consumer-facing website, but funny enough, a lot of brokers and lenders aren't even aware of it. So I think, you know, that the more we can do to promote and educate, the better. And I think on that, you know, you mentioned Halo. So Legal & General have set up a housing division, as most of you will be aware of. And actually, last year we set up Legal & General Affordable Homes, where we have the ambitions to build and buy through Section 106 affordable housing. So it'll be for shared ownership and affordable rent, and probably have desires to get to somewhere in the region of 1,500 homes a year that we'll be building and made available for shared ownership. So yeah, like Halo, you know, we want to try and increase the supply of shared ownership stock as well.
Absolutely. And I'm loving those stats, Craig, and put some dates into perspective there for sure. And Terry, just lastly, is there anything you'd want to add to that?
Yeah, I can totally agree with Craig. And actually, pre-COVID, we were seeing at the New Homes Group, our largest growth area was shared ownership. Yes, thanks to Halo and their proposition, and with a lot of the large house builders, but we were seeing a real growth area there. And actually, that opens up a completely different market quite often, which is really good. So I think, yeah, I think all of the above as mentioned, really.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you. So a couple more questions just before we end. So lots of brokers listening in today. Do you have a top tip for writing and submitting business to make sure that you're getting it right first time? Mobeen, I'll come to you.
Thank you. It sounds really basic, but I would say accuracy of information and data. I think given customer changes, whether the income structure, whether it's their personal situation, a lot of changes have happened. And although it's very basic point to make, making sure that information is totally accurate, it is key, given the changes that have happened. And as brokers, you know, we're so busy just now, in particular with new build, with, like Craig had mentioned, record sales. It's so true. We can all become a bit complacent. And as we get busier, you know, we need to make sure that that information is totally accurate. So to sum up, I think it sounds really basic, but having that correct information and making sure that's all correct when we input applications is key at the moment, given the situation just now.
I don't think we can underestimate how important the basics are, so that's a very valid point. Craig, H, is there anything from your side?
I think utilise the resource you've got available. You know, the BDMs, the websites have obviously got service stats on in terms of app to offer timescales. You know, to echo Mobeen's point, you know, make sure the case is packaged properly before you submit it. You know, I am hearing that, you know, brokers, because of product withdrawal rules, they're chucking a case in to try and secure the product, but obviously a lot of the information's missing. That's not particularly helpful. You know, if we think about many lenders at the moment, have got people working from home and not maybe have the same IT available. So, you know, utilise the resource. You know, we've got smarter criteria from a, you know, whittling down the case and checking a lender's criteria that it is fit for that customer, and then absolutely package it up properly before you submit it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many tools available now. It should definitely be utilised. Craig, M, is there anything else that you'd add from a lender perspective?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's all about the packaging. I mean, we understand as a lender how important speed is for new build, you know, in normal circumstances, which, you know, at the moment is not particularly normal. You know, we'd be looking at a 1 to 2 day turnaround, and we'll be aiming for a 10-day app to offer. Every time we need to ask a broker for a piece of information, that adds 1 or 2 days on. So things like making sure we've got the minimum packaging requirements, proof of income, we do a huge amount of self-employed. So making sure we've got, you know, an accountant's reference in the email so we can speak to the accountant, or the SA 302, address history, making sure we can evidence that, etc. So giving us as much as you possibly can up front will help us kind of get to that, our aspiration of a 10-day app to offer, which means we understand how fast it is and how fast that date is approaching for exchange. So let's all just kind of work together, because every little delay adds a couple of days.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Well, thank you, everyone. I've got one final question for you, and don't make me regret asking this question. A lot of people will know you in the industry, talking a lot about the market, new build, etc. But a bit of a personal one. In a couple of words, just tell me your coping technique throughout lockdown. And Terry, go for it.
I'd like to say that I learned to play a musical instrument or something like that. It's not true. I thought about making that up and see how many people would believe me. I think we were very fortunate during lockdown because the weather was great, wasn't it? And anybody that does know me knows that I like to spend a bit of time out of work, outside. So I did. I spent some time horse riding and out in the field.
Nice. Mobeen?
Definitely not horse riding. Definitely not out as much as Terry. Alcohol?
That's a good answer, Mobeen.
No, jokes aside, I think I've tried to discipline myself, and literally every day, 5 o'clock, close my laptop and just go for a walk or a jog, just to refresh my mind, have thinking time, away from my children, away from work, and just time to myself to kind of refresh and just trying to get some exercise in daily. I think that's been key to trying to get through lockdown for me.
It is. It's been a long time already, for sure. Craig, 8.
Yeah, I think I appreciate what matters most. My family and my children. So unlike Mobeen, probably spending a bit more time with my children, like normally away from home quite a bit. Doing lots of walks, and my wife has signed me up to Joe Wicks every day, so I'm trying to shed a few pounds before I get back out on the circuit. So hopefully you will notice in due course. But yeah, just appreciating being with the family.
Yeah, absolutely. And Craig, last but not least.
I think probably the thing that's helped me most is at Kensington, our executive committee, we agreed every day we'd have kind of 12 to 1 blocked out in our diaries, so we could actually get a break, because certainly at the start of the crisis, we're all kind of spending 60 hours a day sat in a room like this. So I try and, as many days as I can, I try and get out at lunchtime for half an hour and walk my elderly Labrador, which looks very much like one of the ones in Terry's wallpaper. And that is lovely, just to get out for half an hour, get a break, especially because the weather overall has been really good, and just get some fresh air, and then just come back and start again. Because like I say, we've all kind of spent 50, 60 hours a day sat in a room. I mean, sometimes it feels like this wardrobe's going to fall on top of me. But yeah, that's been really good.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Hope brokers have some really good insight, not just to the market, but your personal lives as well. So thank you once again for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.